All right, get ready because today we are diving into Victor Hugo's Notre Dame de Paris. It's a classic, I know.
Yes.
And maybe a little daunting at first.
Sure.
This deep dive
Yeah.
is about unearthing the best parts.
Okay.
The story and that historical backdrop
Perfect.
Hugo built around it.
You see, Hugo's Paris,
Yeah.
it's more than just cobblestones and gargoyles. It practically breathes.
Wow.
It's like a mirror reflecting the social,
Oh, okay.
the religious, even the intellectual energy of medieval times.
Oh, wow.
You'll see how closely these threads weave through the lives of everyone in the story.
So no pressure, Hugo. Just build a whole world for us, right?
Right.
But speaking of that world, let's actually go there for a minute.
Okay.
15th century Paris.
Yeah.
What does that look, sound, feel like?
Imagine this.
Yeah.
Instead of car horns, it's the clang of church bells,
Okay.
each one with its own distinct voice, competing for space in the air.
Wow.
Streets that twist and turn with a logic all their own. Crowded and bustling and towering over it all.
Yeah.
Notre Dame Cathedral.
Okay, stop right there. Because when I think Notre Dame, I'm picturing those photos. Grand, majestic, almost serene.
Yeah.
Am I way off base here?
Not entirely, but Hugo captures a different side.
Uh-huh.
This incredible blend of beauty and decay. Grandeur right alongside chaos.
Okay.
He calls Notre Dame a chimera.
Okay.
And he's not just talking about the mix of architectural styles.
Oh, okay.
The Romanesque bumping up against the Gothic.
Oh.
It's like the building itself is telling a story of time passing, ideas evolving.
So it's got layers, like a history book you can walk through, but with better stained glass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Hugo doesn't just say this.
Okay.
He makes you feel the weight of centuries in the meticulously described details.
Wow.
Those carved figures on the grand portal, they're not just decoration.
Right.
They're bursting with symbolic meaning.
I see.
Every arch, every tower speaks of the immense effort, the artistry, and yes, even the parts already crumbling back then.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? You've got this awe-inspiring monument, but also the reality that even stone crumbles.
Right.
It makes you think about what lasts, what changes.
And that juxtaposition, the grand and the gritty, it's everywhere in Hugo's Paris.
Oh, wow.
He paints this vivid picture of life beyond the cathedral walls, too.
Okay.
You mentioned the church bells.
Yeah.
Well, imagine those mixed with the shouts of merchants, the creak of wooden carts, a whole symphony of city sounds.
Yeah, it's not just one big mass of humanity, right?
Right.
You said something about different burgs.
Ah, yes. Hugo makes a point of distinguishing the three distinct burgs of Paris.
Yeah.
The city, the university, and the town.
Wow.
Each had its own character, its own significance.
Okay.
The city, the oldest part, dominated by Notre Dame and the religious elite.
Okay.
The university, a hotbed of intellectual thought, buzzing with students and scholars.
Right.
And the town, well, that's where you found the merchants, the artisans, the heart of commerce, you might say.
It's like Paris was three cities in one, each with its own rhythm, its own power dynamics even.
Exactly.
And I'm guessing those dynamics are going to come into play with our characters.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
But before we meet them, there's one more scene we need to visit.
Okay.
Imagine yourself in the crowd at the Palace of Justice.
Right.
They're not there for a trial, though.
Okay.
They're waiting for entertainment, a performance.
Okay, so medieval Parisians, big on public spectacle. Got it.
Yes.
What's that tell us, though?
This scene, it gives you a glimpse into the energy of the Parisian mob, their eagerness, their fickleness.
Wow.
They're quick to cheer, even quicker to condemn justice back then.
Yeah.
Often arbitrary, swayed by the whims of the crowd.
Wow.
Remember this scene?
Okay.
Because it speaks volumes about the world our characters are thrown into.
And it's in this world, against the backdrop of this vibrant, chaotic, beautiful Paris, that we're going to meet Quasimodo and Esmeralda. Two individuals fated to be swept up in the currents of this city, grappling with love, loss, and the ever-present tension between darkness and light.
Yes.
More on their stories when we return.
Okay, so we've wandered through the bustling streets of Hugo's Paris.
Yes.
We've felt the weight of history in Notre Dame's very stones.
Right.
But now it's time to meet the people who bring this world to life.
And you know what I think is so compelling about Hugo's characters?
Look at that.
They aren't just moving through this backdrop.
Right.
Their fates are actually like intertwined with the city itself.
Oh, wow.
The systems of power, the prejudices, everything.
It's like Hugo saying you can't understand the individual without understanding the society that shaped them.
Exactly.
Right.
And vice versa.
Yeah, yeah.
Take Quasimodo, for example.
Okay.
The deaf bell ringer.
Right. Yeah.
He lives high above the city in the towers of Notre Dame, right? Finding solace in the music of the bells.
Yeah.
A language he can understand, even feel, in a way others can't.
But that separation, it also kind of highlights how he's viewed by society.
Yeah.
How he's ostracized for his appearance.
There's that scene that's just seared into my memory from the book.
Oh, yeah.
The public humiliation at the pillory.
Right.
It's gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
Not just because of the cruelty, but because it silences even those bells for him.
It's true.
Like, those are his lifeline.
That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hugo doesn't just tell us Quasimodo is deaf.
Right.
He shows us how that silence, both imposed and self-inflicted, shapes his whole being.
Wow.
And yet, this is also where Hugo reveals these depths of Quasimodo's compassion.
Okay.
His unwavering loyalty, especially towards Esmeralda.
And that loyalty, it's tested from the get-go.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Esmeralda,
Yeah.
she's everything Quasimodo is not.
Right.
She bursts onto the scene full of life.
Yes.
This beautiful, enigmatic street dancer.
Yeah, a stark contrast.
But she's also an outsider. A
Yeah.
gypsy.
Which means facing a whole other level of prejudice and suspicion
Oh, for sure.
in Hugo's world.
And it's that suspicion that makes her so vulnerable to these darker forces at play.
Yeah.
Specifically, Archdeacon Claude Frollo.
Right, talk about complicated characters. Here we have a figure of authority, a man of the church,
Yes,
yet he's captivated by Esmeralda.
he is.
And not in a way, shall we say, holy.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Right.
Frollo's obsession with Esmeralda is like this ticking time bomb, you know?
Yeah.
And it really says a lot about the hypocrisy Hugo was critiquing.
Right.
This man who should be a beacon of righteousness, right?
Right.
Becomes consumed by these base desires.
It's true.
It's not just lust, though.
Okay.
And that plays a part, sure.
Okay.
But remember those hints Hugo drops about Frollo's interest in alchemy
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and forbidden knowledge?
Okay.
It's like he's already tempted by power outside the accepted bounds of the church.
And that makes his obsession with Esmeralda even more dangerous.
Oh, totally.
For both of them.
So dangerous.
It's tragic because Esmeralda is caught in this web of misunderstandings,
Oh, yeah.
largely fueled by Frollo's twisted desires.
Right, and this is where the whole justice system of Hugo's Paris comes into sharp focus.
If Notre Dame represents the moral and spiritual heart of Paris,
Right.
the Palace of Justice exposes the city's dark underbelly.
It does.
And nowhere is that more evident than during Esmeralda's trial.
Yeah, that scene, it's just brutal.
It is. It's a sham.
It's awful.
Pure and simple.
It really shows how easily fear, superstition, and even entertainment can be used to sway judgment.
So easily.
And this is where that scene we discussed earlier,
Okay.
the crowd at the Palace of Justice, eager for a performance,
Right.
becomes even more significant.
Wow.
You see the mob mentality Hugo depicts?
Yeah.
Terrifying, because it's so easily manipulated.
Right.
They're quick to condemn Esmeralda based on nothing but rumors and prejudice. It's true, and this is the world Quasimodo and Esmeralda are trying to navigate.
I know. It's a lot.
They're both at the mercy of forces beyond their control,
Right.
caught in a system that's stacked against them from the start.
Totally.
But their individual struggles are about to collide.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where we'll pick up next time. So we've met Quasimodo, finding solace in those bells at Notre Dame.
Yes.
And Esmeralda facing down all that prejudice and suspicion you were talking about.
Right in the heart of Paris.
And you said it, their fates are about to collide.
Yeah, collide might be putting it lightly.
Oh boy.
Let's just say the stakes are about to get a whole lot higher.
Okay.
We left off with Esmeralda on trial.
Yeah.
Accused of witchcraft and attempted murder. And we know Frollo's behind it.
All thanks to Frollo.
And it's in these moments of extreme peril, that we see who these characters really are.
And how ugly that society they're trapped in really is.
It's true. It's not just Frollo, right?
No.
It's the whole system that lets him use his authority like a weapon.
But there are flickers of rebellion, though, right?
Yes, there are these sparks of defiance.
Like what?
One of the most striking, I think,
Yeah.
is the assault on Notre Dame by the Court of Miracles.
Whoa.
Think about it. The people on the fringes, the outcasts,
Oh, right.
the beggars,
Mm.
they all come together to try and save Esmeralda.
That's something else. I mean, can you imagine that scene?
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hugo makes us confront that hypocrisy,
Yeah.
A society that says it values justice,
Huh?
but then turns its back on anyone who doesn't fit in.
Right. Right. It's like,
The Court of Miracles, it's flawed, sure,
of course. Yeah.
but it becomes this symbol of resistance,
Yeah. See.
a testament to those bonds that people form when they've been oppressed.
And then there's Quasimodo,
Right, the thick of it.
the one they all cast aside.
Yes.
Now he's this fierce protector
Exactly.
from Notre Dame, the sanctuary.
Or Esmeralda, for hope itself, you could say.
It's one of the things I love most about Hugo. The way he throws these contrasts at you makes you think.
He really does.
So you've got Esmeralda. She's hunted,
Yes.
betrayed, condemned.
All of it.
And then she finally finds her mother.
Right, and they have that emotional reunion in, do you remember that description?
Oh, yeah.
The rat hole,
In the depths of Notre Dame.
like a hidden chamber.
Yeah. I mean, it's more than that, though.
What do you mean?
It's like this physical embodiment of all those secrets.
Oh,
The
that's...
suffering that's been hidden beneath the surface.
It's true, it's there in the very stones.
So they have this moment, right?
A brief one.
Mm.
But then,
Tristan Laramie,
right, he shows up.
one of the king's officers, so you know it can't be good.
Yeah.
And Esmeralda, she realizes...
Even Notre Dame
yeah, even the sanctuary.
can't protect her.
No escape from the law, not really.
And Frollo,
Oh, Follow.
that obsession has completely consumed him.
Like a fire out of control. Yeah, exactly. Twisting everything he does.
And that's the tragedy of it.
What do you mean?
He's so blinded
By what? His desires.
by his desires, by his idea of righteousness, that he can't see the trail of destruction he's leaving
Wow.
to himself, to everyone around him.
It's like those Greek tragedies we've talked about.
It really is. You can see it coming, but you can't look away.
So Esmeralda, she's given a choice.
An impossible choice.
Given to Frollo or face the gallows.
And she chooses death.
Yeah, she chooses her integrity over a life with him.
It's heartbreaking, but you can't help but admire her strength.
You sense it as a reader, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's inevitable.
Her fate is sealed.
Quasimodo, he tries everything.
He does, bless him.
Tries to appeal to Phoebus, hoping maybe he can rekindle some spark of love.
You think that would work on Phoebus?
Right, but he represents everything shallow about that society.
More worried about appearances than true justice.
And so Esmeralda, she's led to her execution.
But even then,
I know, right?
even facing death, she has such strength.
She finds peace, almost.
Acceptance.
And Quasimodo,
Can't bear to see it.
he takes matters into his own hands.
A true hero, in his own way,
Rescues her right from the gallows.
back to the safety of Notre Dame, at least for a little while.
But Frollo,
He's not done. Not yet.
in that final act, he lets his true nature loose.
Desperate.
Tries to take Esmeralda back.
And Quasimodo finally understands.
He sees the threat.
He fights back with everything he has
To protect her?
to protect the only good he knows, maybe?
And Frollo,
Correct.
from those towers, the source of his power.
It's almost too perfect, isn't it?
Like Hugo was saying, even the strongest structures
Even stone and mortar.
can be destroyed.
But even with Frollo gone, things don't end well.
No, this wouldn't be a Hugo novel if they did.
Esmeralda, she mistakes Quasimodo's actions, thinks it was him who betrayed her,
Oh no.
flees right into the hands of the authorities.
And that's it then, isn't it?
Her fate is sealed.
And Quasimodo.
He sees the execution.
It's brutal.
Hugo doesn't shy away from the darkness,
No, he doesn't.
the injustice that permeates everything.
I'm drawn to those final images, though.
Me too.
Quasimodo disappears
And that is just almost.
into the city that could never accept him.
Years later,
They find his skeleton.
clutching Esmeralda's remains.
Oh, wow. I get chills just thinking about it.
It's happy and heartbreaking all at the same time.
What do you think Hugo wants us to take away from this? From all this tragedy?
I think he wants us to look closer.
Let's look closer.
Beyond what we think we see. To question those in power.
Yeah.
To recognize that everyone, even those who are marginalized, even those who are condemned, they all have their own story.
It's a story that stays with you.
It really does.
Well said. And on that note, I think we'll leave our listeners to ponder those echoes of Hugo's Notre Dame de Paris.
Yes.
Until next time, happy reading, everyone. And remember, sometimes the most incredible stories are found in the most unexpected places.